Time for the May garden tour. It's May, here's the garden. All right, thanks for coming. Just kidding. Here's your coffee. Let's take a look at what's going on. So it's the end of May. It is 57 degrees outside. This is zone 6B, Kentucky. It's spring, and it actually feels like spring, whereas sometimes it feels like summer and spring. Right now it feels like spring and spring, which is very exciting. I kept putting off doing a garden tour because there's more that needs to be done, but it's a garden. There's always more that needs to be done. So I figured we might as well just go ahead and do it. This is the first full garden tour of the year. And the first thing you'll notice is the garden is completely different from last year. This year we bit the bullet and we bought landscape fabric. It just got to the point where we weren't going to be able to do the garden, at least certainly not on this scale, without some sort of major help. And that is in the form of weed mat. And so far I'm thrilled. If we didn't have weed mat down, the whole garden would look like this right now, which is pretty much what happened every single year. We started off okay, it would get out of hand. We'd have to start over. Let us start over here. That's where I planted my wall of flowers. These are my zinnia. They are from seeds, saved from seeds, saved from seeds, saved from seeds. I don't even know how many, what iteration we're on right now. So they're all just mixed. I don't know what they are. They are what they are. And then back here, I have sunflowers planted and they keep getting eaten. The seeds have been getting eaten. The plants have been getting eaten. So I actually started some in a bucket and I'm just gonna transplant them out. All the holes that don't have any, I'll just transplant. What kind of sunflowers are they? They're actually just, I bought a bag of like bird food, black sunflower seeds for birds. So that's this whole mat here. This entire mat is on 1 foot spacing, the zinnia and the sunflowers. This looks like it's nothing. We have planted here are squashes. I think we got the gold bar ones and then just zucchini. They are approximately, I want to say like 6 chickens across. We only planted one in every other hole, even though we spaced them so they could be planted in every hole. You don't need very many plants of zucchini because they just create so much zucchini and you can't give away zucchini. But what I'm also thinking now is because the squash bugs are so bad, maybe succession planting. Maybe somehow we can miss some of the squash bugs because by the time they attack, it's done. This whole row is green beans. This year, my goal was to grow things that I can preserve more than growing interesting things. So we eat a lot of green beans. I canned a lot of green beans. I plan on canning way more green beans this year. These are all direct seeded and they've all come up. Some of them got eaten. Some of them didn't come up. See these holes? So I placed another seed in there. There are 200-ish green bean plants. It's gonna be a lot of green beans. I'll be kicking myself when we're actually picking them and canning them. I'll be like, why? Whose idea was this? But then in the winter, when we have all the green beans, I'll be like, this is good. These are just buckets of sage. They're so pretty and happy and the pollinators love them. And I had taken them out of the garden before we redid it and I didn't know what to do with them. So I just stuck them in buckets. So they're just spaced throughout the garden. This is our peppers and basil and a couple eggplants row. Most of these are bell peppers, and we did, as you see from the tags, buy them. Last year, I grew a bunch of peppers. They did really well, and we got an early frost right as they were like starting to produce a lot and just killed all of them. And we were not having that happen this year. So we bought starts that are already going so that we can make sure that we actually get peppers. But then for the rest of the row and on down, we direct seeded some pepper seeds. And they are coming up. And then for ones that don't come up, I also started some seeds in a bucket so we can transplant out. So we should have a lot of peppers this year, which is good because we just found out that we eat a ton of salsa. Plus we just eat a lot of bell peppers. So bell peppers, there's also like one sweet banana pepper that doesn't look so great, a bunch of jalapeños, and then 2 eggplants also bought as starts. There was a time, maybe even last year, where I would have considered buying starts like a failure. I didn't start everything from seed. And I think that comes from a place probably of zombie apocalypse. Comes from a place of zombie apocalypse. Trying to get ready for the zombie apocalypse. So we're trying to be like as self-sustaining as possible. And obviously buying starts is not really part of that. Like, I want to be able to grow everything from seed, save seeds, and then grow more. That's really hard, and it's something we're working up to. I found that my enjoyment of the garden was going way down the more pressure that I was putting on myself to be perfect and have everything just figured out. So this year I was like, I don't want to hate my garden. My garden is a place of refuge and comfort and like makes me happy. If it's making me upset, like, that's not good. So we took some of the pressures off. We bought some starts from the store. We bought all these tomatoes from the store. It's a season of life we're in. We're learning other things. We will get there. If you find yourself starting to resent your garden, maybe back off and realize that in the event of the zombie apocalypse, you're gonna have a lot more time to be doing these things. We'll get there. The garden part, maybe not the zombie apocalypse part. So here are the tomatoes that we got. We got a lot of different types. Black Krim, Ponderosa Pink, Purple Zebra. I know there's Cherokee Purples. We just got like a mixture and some Romas. This is way less than we've ever grown. In past years, we've grown as like 100 tomato plants. But my thinking this year is, my husband's like, can we please scale back on the tomatoes? I don't think we're gonna need as many plants this year. We're gonna find out if that's true or not. We did not have a fence before. The chickens were coming in and eating our tomatoes. So we were losing a lot of tomatoes to chickens. And then also it was a little overwhelming. We were losing fruit that would just drop off the plant and rot. So I think with less plants to take care of, we'll probably be able to get the same amount of fruit, but from less plants. Also, last year was just really bad for our tomato plants. I don't know why. Okay, second thing I wanted to mention is our fencing system. So this fence still needs to go up. We have tried every way of staking up tomatoes, and this is the only way that works for us. And I'm not saying that this is the only way that will work for you, but this is the only way that works for us. We have tried tomato cages. I have a ton of them. We have tried the like weaving method. I don't even remember all the things we've tried, but this is what works. T-posts with fencing, and then we just, you know, attach them to the fence. We'll never go back. This is it for us. They look really good and happy. Okay, so it should be really interesting entering the garden because we have a fence on this side with all tomatoes and then a fence on this side with all cucumbers. That's a lot of cucumbers. We're really upset that we have not had pickles yet. We got pickles from my mom, we get pickles from other people, and then every year I try to grow cucumbers and then we don't get any pickles because there'll be like one plant and I'll be like, I have one cucumber. I can't just pickle like one little cucumber. So this year we're like, we want pickles. So we have an entire row of cucumbers. These first ones we actually bought as starts. The rest of them, which are coming up and look great, are direct seeded. I mean, they look awesome. We probably didn't need to buy starts, but we did. So these are on 1 foot spacing. Same fencing, but the fence is lower than the tomatoes. This fence goes very close to the ground, whereas the tomatoes, they have quite a bit before we attach them. We have the 1 foot spacing for the cucumbers. Then we did another line of 1 foot spacing, which I planted lettuce in. Before I show you this lettuce, let me explain. I sowed it in a bucket. The lettuce came up. We didn't have the holes burnt. It took a little while. By the time I finally transplanted them, I realized that lettuce is not quite as hardy as like a zinnia or something. And I might actually have to do those a different way next year because some of them really didn't like to be transplanted. However, even though they look really, really bad, they are growing back. So look, here's a lettuce leaf. Even here, there's a little lettuce leaf. This one looks a little bit better. I actually think they might all make it, even though they look like just, I mean, they look terrible. But I see signs of life in almost all of them. This mat is on 2 foot spacing, and this is all my cabbages. I have an entire row of red cabbages because I really like sauerkraut and I like to make them with that. And then this row is alternating red cabbages and Chinese cabbage. The Chinese cabbage looks a lot better than some of the red cabbage, which doesn't look as good, although that one looks kind of okay. I'm actually not sure how to preserve the Chinese cabbage. We eat it fresh and you can eat it in stir fries, and I made some kimchi with it, but I didn't like it. It was probably my recipe. It was probably me that did something wrong, but I like just regular sauerkraut more than kimchi, I guess. This is a celery grown from a supermarket scrap. We ate the whole celery and then I just stuck the base in water and it started growing again. Now I put it back out. I feel like this is like a Free Willy moment. You've been put back in your natural environment. It's like I can see the orca jumping over the wall. I'm gonna name you Willy. Kids these days even know what Free Willy is? Probably not. I have aged myself. And then way down at the end, I put kale. This is some sort of dwarf kale. I'm the only one who eats kale. Yeah, so I don't have too many kale plants. Plus they create so much kale. I'd like to get some of that netting to put over this entire row because the cabbage worms get really bad. I love the cabbage white butterflies. They're so pretty, but their caterpillars are like so destructive. So we bought the landscape fabric. We only had enough to cover this much of the garden, which is a large portion, but over here we don't. So the tarps are down to kill what's underneath, which is doing a good job. We're gonna do corn for this half up to the gate and then sweet potatoes for the other half. Last year I grew some corn here in the garden, some heirloom varieties, and it did okay. And then we grew an entire patch of sweet corn over in the dog pen, way over yonder. And that did not go so well. The deer, the raccoons, and the chickens ate the whole thing. We realized that it needs to be in a fenced-in area, so we're gonna go ahead and plant it here in the garden. Some of the glass gem corn that I had over here has reseeded itself and is growing, and I'm gonna let these just go ahead and grow. And then this is our carrot patch, just direct seeded, just kind of sprinkled it all in, and it's looking really great. I love carrots because A, they taste good, B, you can can them, and C, swallowtail butterfly caterpillars, this is one of their host plants. Carrots, parsley, dill, those are some things I grow that they like, so I love caterpillars. This is just a bunch of weeds. Back here is all the garlic that I planted with a bunch of weeds. So in June, this will be done. And at this point, I don't know what type it is. The first year I just planted garlic that came from the supermarket. It did wonderful. It was all hardneck. The next year, I actually ordered some garlic off of online. It was from a place that sells garlic for culinary reasons. And then they had bags of like not as pretty garlic. And I was like, well, I don't care if it's pretty. I just need to plant it. So I bought a bag of like some different types of garlic and grew those. A bunch of them were like red streaked and those were soft neck variety and I really liked them. And then this year, well, I don't know. When I start planting things saved from plants that I've already grown, eventually it gets to the point where I'm like, it's all mixed up. My labeling system is non-existent. So if it makes escape, I'll know it's hard neck. If it doesn't grow escape, I'll know it's soft neck. We shall see. Either way, it tastes good. Here we have potatoes. These were just like regular russet potatoes. And then I planted some red potatoes and some yellow potatoes. And I have not seen them come up yet. I feel like I should have seen some. And then all these tall plants right here are milkweed. And I let them grow in my garden because they are host plants for the monarch butterfly. So that is what is currently planted. So this is kind of like my little nursery. We have a lot of basil. Too much basil. So much basil. We have extra tomatoes from all the tomato starts we bought. Look, it's my spinach that I never transplanted and has completely bolted and gone to seed. Yay! Here we have strawberries and a rogue zinnia. A lot of them are flowers. I think I have some cherry tomatoes, some butternut squash, which is going to go out in that garden. Oh, baby sunflowers. Bucket of cosmos. So these all need to be transplanted. These are my nasturtiums, which came up very quickly and nicely. So I used like some sandpaper and just like scratched the seeds and they came up like super fast. So here's the garden, end of May. We'll do a comparison next month, as long as I remember, and see what's going on. So, thanks for coming over. Enjoy your coffee.